You hear the word subsidies and you immediately think free cash for your business. It's a natural reaction. You imagine government grant that hits your bank account just when you need it most, or helping you pay for that new office, cover your payroll, or launch your marketing campaign. So while the Monodukuri subsidy is technically free money, in the long run, having that specific cash upfront mindset will get your application rejected immediately. Even worse, it could put your entire company in financial danger. The Japanese government wants to pay for your next major equipment upgrade. They're willing to cover up to 10 million, 20 million, or sometimes even 30 million. But they will only do it if you can prove it makes you more efficient. First, Monodukuri isn't just for traditional factories anymore. It used to be about physical craftsmanship or like physical products, things like that. But today, if you are foreign founders building software, developing some kind of platform or scaling your operations here in Japan, this program might be your biggest overlooked asset. But before we talk about the benefits, we need to talk about a serious misconception. A lot of foreign founders think that they can just buy the equipment now and then get reimbursed later with the subsidy, or they think they can just use those funds to cover rent or salaries during the messy startup phase that they have. This needs to be very clear that the Monodukuri subsidies is strictly a reimbursement system, which means you have to have the cash flow to pay for everything upfront first. You apply, you wait for the approval, you order the equipment, you pay for the full amount from your own bank account, and then you install it. You prove that it works, and that only then the government will help you cover up the costs by sending you the money. The stakes are incredibly high here. Misunderstanding the timeline means zero funding. Misunderstanding the purpose means wasting weeks on a business plan that will never have a chance of getting through. So let me give you a concrete scenario to show you what I mean. Imagine a founder named Sarah. She runs a growing design agency. She hears about the subsidy and assumes that it will cover her new studio setup and the salaries for 3 new designers. She plans the entire Q1 budget around this influx of cash. She orders the computer, she signs the lease, she hires the staff. But the truth is that the subsidy does not really cover the rent, it does not cover the salaries, and even while the equipment is eligible, the payout is still a couple of months away. So right now, Sarah will have a cash flow crisis that could kill her business before the year even ends. So, with that being said, the Monodukuri subsidies is still very powerful, but it's for scaling productivity, not subsidizing your entire business operation. Before we get into it, I also need to mention that all the information we have gathered here are only up to date for as of December 2025. And to get the best chance of successfully applying for a Monodukuri subsidies, please consult an expert, or alternatively, we can help you find one that will help you design the best business plan that will be able to apply for the subsidy successfully. You can contact us in the link in the description down below, or use the contact form on our website. Okay, so now let's look at the program in a bit more detail. This program is administered by the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, or METI. It is designed to support small and medium enterprises that are investing in revolutionary services, prototyping, or production processes. The workflow has 5 distinct stages, and you cannot skip any of them. Stage 1 is the application. You submit a detailed business plan. Stage 2 is adoption. This is when they say, yes, we like your plan. Stage 3 is the project implementation. This is where you spend your own money to buy the equipment or build the system. Stage 4 is the audit. You submit proof of payment and proof that the system is working. Stage 5 is the reimbursement. The government transfers the funds to your corporate account. Throughout this process, the government does not care about your general growth or your brand awareness. They care about specific hard metrics. You must demonstrate how this investment increases efficiency. You need to ask yourself specific questions. Does this investment reduce processing time by 10%? Does it increase the output per employee per hour? If you cannot measure the improvement with a calculator, you cannot get the money. Now, let's talk about eligibility. Who can actually apply? Can foreign founders apply? Absolutely. But the applicant must be the Japanese entity. That means your KK or your GK. Your parent company in the US or Europe cannot apply directly. You generally need to meet 3 main criteria. First,
you must fit the SME definition. This depends on your industry. For example, if you are in manufacturing, you usually need capital under 300 million yen or fewer than 300 employees. If you are in the service industry, the numbers are lower. Most startups easily fit this. Second, you need a real execution plan. This cannot be a paper company. You need a physical presence and a way to actually do the work. Third, and this is crucial, you must be compliant with Japanese labor laws and tax regulations. If you haven't paid your corporate taxes, you are ineligible. There's also a strict requirement regarding wages. In recent years, the program has made it mandatory for applicants to commit to raising the lowest wage in their company. Usually, you must increase the total wage payment by 1.5% to 3% annually, depending on the specific framework you apply for. This is not a suggestion. If you fail to raise wages after getting the subsidy, they can ask for the money back. Now, let's move to the money. What is actually covered? This is where most people get confused. The subsidy pays for tools that do work, not the environment you work in. Here is what is eligible: machinery and specialized equipment. This could be a new coffee roasting machine or a high-end 3D printer. System construction costs. This is the big one for tech founders. It covers the cost of developing specialized software, integrating APIs, or building a custom ERP system. Cloud service fees are also covered, but only the fees incurred during the project period. And finally, outsourcing costs for technical implementation. Now, here is the no list. These are the things that are absolutely not covered: office rent, staff salaries, utility bills, general use items. This includes standard laptops, smartphones, and tablets. The logic is that you could use an iPad for watching Netflix just as easily as for business, so they won't pay for it. And finally, travel expenses are almost never covered. The funding caps and reimbursement rates vary. Typically, the government will reimburse between 1/2 to 2/3 of the eligible costs. The maximum cap can range from 7 million yen up to 30 million yen or more, depending on if you are in the green framework or the global market expansion category. These figures and categories change annually, so do not rely on blog posts you read from 2 years ago. You need the 2025 guidelines. Now let's discuss the application process itself. You need to treat this like a competitive university entrance exam, not a lottery. A mediocre plan gets rejected. You must write a detailed business plan, usually around 10 to 15 pages. This plan must show specifically how the investment leads to productivity growth. It requires a market analysis, a technical roadmap, and a financial viability simulation for the next 3 to 5 years. Reviewers are experts. They will compare your plan against thousands of others. If your numbers don't add up, or if your innovation sounds fake, you will fail. But here is the part that separates Monodukuri from almost every other subsidy in Japan. You must achieve at least a 3% annual increase in value added per productivity. Let me repeat that. This is not a suggestion. This is a strict performance benchmark. If you fail to hit that 3% target, you have to repay the entire subsidy to the government. Think about what that means. You receive the reimbursement, you install the equipment, you run your operations. Then, if your productivity does not increase by at least 3% annually, the government claws back every yen. This is not like other subsidies where approval means you are done. This is a performance contract. You are committing to a measurable outcome, and the consequences of missing that target are severe. And this is why the documentation requirements are so strict. Proof of ordering, delivery, payment, and implementation is mandatory. The paper trail must be perfect, because the government is not just checking that you bought the equipment, they are checking that it delivered the results you promised. This is also why I strongly advise working with a professional who understands subsidy compliance. The complexity is high, the stakes are high, and if you miscalculate your productivity baseline or overestimate the impact of your investment, you are on the hook for repayment. You also need a gBizID Prime account. This is the digital ID required to apply for government services online. Getting this ID can take 2 to 3 weeks because you have to mail physical stamps to the bureau. If you don't have this ID yet, you need to start that process today, not next month. Let me recap what we covered. Monodukuri is a reimbursement for productivity assets. You need cash flow to cover it upfront. Foreign entities can apply if compliant. The plan must show measurable results. And this subsidy is different from normal subsidies because it requires you to hit a strict 3% annual productivity increase, or you repay everything. It sounds bureaucratic because it is, but for a company ready to scale its tech or production, it is one of the most significant sources of equity-free funding available in Japan. The key is understanding the commitment you are making and having the right support to execute it properly. This is not something you want to attempt alone. The complexity, the documentation requirements, and the consequences of missing your performance targets mean you need expert guidance. If you're planning a major investment in 2025 and want to know if the Monodukuri Subsidy fits your roadmap, reach out to us.
We help foreign founders find the right expert for their subsidies application and making sure that they have the right business plan for their application as well. And making sure they have the best business plan possible when they're going into the application. We can also help you understand, in addition to monetary subsidies, what other financial aid can you possibly obtain from the Japanese government.
And if you need us to connect you with a subsidy specialist who can guide you through the full process, we can introduce you to an expert who has successfully helped clients apply for a subsidy. Contact us at smartstartjapan.com or leave a comment down below.